Tyrone.
Yes, Mr. Jones.
Good to see you.
Oh my God.
What'd you say? Don called you the Bone, huh? Tyrone said, Don nicknamed me the Bone.
He sure did.
Yeah,
he called me the Bone. The reason why he called me the Bone because I was so thin. I was like about size 26 waist, and he would always go, Bone, up on the riser, where you at? Boom, ba, 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 ba. He'd always say stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I guess it got to be a thing with him, so he could start calling me the Bone.
The Bone, yeah. That was his favorite word for you, boy, among other things.
He wouldn't even call me Tyrone. He'd just say Bone.
Yeah, because they had a couple more Tyrones in there that we...
Yeah, Tyrone, Tyrone Swan.
Yeah. I talked to him the other day. But tell me about, the times that you were on the train, boy, you was an absolute star because you and Jeffrey and Jody and all of them kind of commanded the stage and all the new stuff that was going on. After you come out of those clubs, y'all doing your own Vogue and all the other things you were doing at those other clubs. And coming onto the train was a little different because you had a time limit. There's 3 minutes for a song maybe on there. And when you were in those clubs, 3 minutes was nothing.
Yeah, it was, oh God. Whew, I want to, let me go back. Let me go back when I first met Sharon.
Okay.
We'll take it back there. That was my first experience. My first experience was with, I can go even when I was in Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why I went on the train, the reason why I liked Soul Train and I was in Philadelphia was because the dancers, they expressed themselves, because back then when the people danced they were very conservative. They moved conservative, they dressed conservative, they had shark skin pants, they had high tops, they had high boys, they had all this stuff. Very smooth. But then Soul Train came and it just blew everything out the water. I clearly remember my first watching was Demita, and then there were 4 dancers that came on there that I just had total respect for. Eddie, Wanda, Diane, and Bernard. Those people, oh my God. I lived to see them because when they came down the line, their steps were so perfect. So when I did get a chance to go on the show, it was kind of difficult. I came to LA September the 22nd, 1972 at 10:22 p.m. Pacific time on a Tuesday.
Could you be a little more specific?
No.
Okay.
I know that because that was the day, that was my day. And I gotten on the show, I think maybe a month later, and I befriended Little Joe up there on Stalker. There was a club called, I can't think of what it was called, up there on Stalker on the hill.
Yeah, Stalker on the Prayer.
Yeah, I don't know if it was Blueberry, it might have been Blueberry Hill. I don't know what it was, but I think that was it. And Little Joe introduced me to all these people, and I was floored. And I was grabbed. So they had wanted me to come on the show, but they had already had the auditions. So what Little Joe did was Little Joe put me, because when you went to KTLA, you were on a list, and they had a parking spot where you would come up, and if your name wasn't on the list, you weren't getting in.
Right.
So what Little Joe did with me, he put me in the trunk of his car, and we proceeded to get in. And then when we parked the car, I got out the trunk, and I walked into the studio like, oh, it was there.
Right.
Then when I got in there, I was just so, what's the word? I was so struck by everything that I saw, by all of the people that I saw. And it never came to my attention all this time that I would have had to dance with somebody, and I didn't even think about that. And I think it was, I'm not sure, I'd have to ask Pat, but it was Little Joe and Pat that sat there and decided. She said, well, she called her cousin, Sharon, and she said, well, my cousin's here, you can dance with Sharon. Now, when I looked over at Sharon, I'm like,
You're talking about Sharon Hill.
Sharon Hill.
Yeah.
When I saw her, I'm like, oh my God. Sharon was, I don't know, how would you say this without, she was the darkest, the prettiest. I mean, oh God. And I said, I'm gonna dance with you. Now, we were both nervous, we were both scared in the beginning. Oh God. It's just bringing back memories. It's bringing back a lot of stuff.
Speak on.
We somehow connected. We rehearsed. We rehearsed and rehearsed and rehearsed. And our first solo thing was when Don was, I think, introducing new dance moves. And the first dance that we did, I think Tyrone Davis was there. He was the guest, and we did.
And he was also called the Bone. See,
Really?
There's a little pattern there. Everybody named Tyrone.
Well, you know Tyrone Davis, the singer.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know that.
Out of Chicago, yeah.
Wow. That's news to me.
Well,
Wow.
You live and you learn. Well, go ahead.
So Sharon and I, we had to come up with a dance real quick. So we went in the back, and I said, she was like, what are we gonna do? I said, all right, well, this is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna teach you something called the PA Slaughter that I just made up out of my mind. And I called it the PA Slaughter because I'm from Philadelphia, and I wanted the people from Philadelphia to know that I was here. So that's why I called it the PA Slaughter. And it would be like this and boom, this and boom. And we did that, and we did that. And from that point on, it was done. I think maybe, we danced on the show maybe 3 weeks, no, 2 months after. Then Don started the Soul Train dance. Don Cornelius presents the Soul Train Gang.
Yeah.
That tour, and we were very fortunate, and very lucky to be handpicked by Don Cornelius himself to go on the tour. And from that point, that's when we got into the magazines, and it just took from there. It was a blessing. I love Sharon Hill to death. I couldn't have done none of this without her. None of it.
I hear you. Yeah, well, Sharon was, Don would kind of rank the dancers from 1 to 20.
See, and I don't know nothing about this. I didn't know nothing about
Nobody
this.
know nothing about
Well, nobody knew nothing about what Don was doing, because in Don's mind, he was doing whatever he was doing. Didn't nobody know nothing.
But we will rank you guys from 1 to 20. Now, the combination of dress, originality, and the character. So you rank very high in that. I'm not telling you what the numbers are now, but that'll come out later in the book.
Ooh.
But from that point on, Don would say, "Where's the Bone?" So he's out in the parking lot. And he's, "Man, get me here. I want to do something." Blah blah blah. So we always got our favorite dancers in to be sure we have them stacked at the right place at the right time. But of course, you guys, every time you saw the red light on their camera, it cleared to that side.
Whoa. Oh my God. Chuck, you just mentioned the red light. Oh God.
Yeah.
Oh Lord. The red light, what can I say? That red light on the camera?
Yes.
It was everything.
Yes.
One minute you could be like this, that red light comes on you, boom. Oh my God.
Yeah, it was magic.
That red light was everything.
Yeah.
Everything. I'm sitting there going.
But after a while, I was talking to the producers and stuff downstairs. They were downstairs, and they said, "Who do you got, Chuck?" I said, "Catch Tyrone. He's gonna come and he's gonna do something crazy, but catch him." And then you coming down acting like a diva, coming down the little line
with the coat.
Yeah, right.
The long coat.
Dropped the coat. Sharon had to pick it up and bring it.
Oh my God.
But those are some of the things that I recognize with you. You and Jeffrey and them making up stuff. You and Jeffrey and Jody making up stuff before the line. Yeah.
And we would make that stuff up. Jeffrey, Jody, Sharon, and I would make that stuff up right on the spot.
Yeah.
When we're dancing on that, when you put us on the riser,
yeah.
I think what really prompted those dances was the music. The music, I think, really, it really propelled us to do what we did, because we were just I would see Jeffrey do something one time, and then we would all follow Jeffrey. Jody would do something, we all follow her. I would do something. It worked that way. It was wild. It was so wild.
I know you guys are taking over and doing such crazy things. I resisted many times to open the door and kick y'all ass out of there, but it was.
But I'm so glad you didn't, because you're the one that took us to. You took us to where? I think it was Montreal. Was it Montreal? Canada.
Yes.
Yeah. You got us the gig in Canada. Yeah, I remember all of that.
And on the that Labor Day thing that Dick Clark used to do all the time. You guys were.
That's the one. Yeah. Little Joe had a lot to do with that. The Jerry Lewis telethon.
Yeah, right,
that was. Little Joe had a lot to do with that, because Little Joe every year he would have some dancers, and they would rotate because there were so many of them that we would come on there each year. And I think there's a tape of us out there somewhere where we did what was it, Star Wars? I think that was in Jeffrey Daniels' mind. I think he made that one up. And he had his little silver shorts. Oh my God!
Now there came a time, Don and I would talk all the time about what's going on. There was come a time he was considering, man, you think I should keep Tyrone on the show? They over at American Bandstand. He said to me, do you recruit dancers to go to American Bandstand, Chuck? I said, no. I said, I know Tyrone and over there, man, but don't do it yet.
Well, let me say this about that.
Okay.
My loyalty and my loyalty was always, because I've always been pro-black in my life, always. So when I got on Soul Train, the other reason why I enjoyed Soul Train so much is that it was a positive avenue for young black people to go and present themselves. What happened with American Band? Because American Bandstand had another show, and I think Don and Jesse Jackson got it taken off the air because they started using black people. Sharon and I would never go on there. We never went on there. What happened was Demita and Little Joe had won a dance contest on American Bandstand, and Dick Clark went to Demita and Little Joe and asked them. They said, "Well, what kind of you have any dancers that could do the dance contest?" So he recommended, Little Joe and Demita recommended Sharon and I. And what we did, we had to go down to Dick Clark's office, and in his office, which was kind of small, we had to do like a little routine. And we did a little routine, and he said, "You're on." It was really interesting because there were, I think, seven other contestants. So I think it was 8 contestants all together.
Right.
And it's not like it is now. Back then, you had to use a postcard and send it in. You had to mail it in. You would see each of the and it went on for about, I think, 4 or 5 weeks. And you'd had to you had to what's the word? You had to write it in and send it in, and through that. So Sharon and I, we were saying we didn't want to lose. We went to places like what's the place down the street from the Total Experience?
Yes.
We went to the places like Total Experience, and we had we went to the Total Experience, and we danced in front of there, then we handed out cards, and they would fill them out, and then we'd take them back, and then we'd and put them in there.
Yeah.
And we thought we were doing something. But at the end, Dick Clark came to us, and I think it was his producer came to us, and he says, "Wow, you guys did," after we had won, he said, "You guys did well," and we didn't know. But out of all 8 contestants, and there was 100,000 votes tabulated, Sharon and I got 60,000 of the votes. I was like,
Is that when you won the cars?
That's when we won the cars.
No.
And then that's when I had to go to Jeffrey, and then I think he went to you or something.
Yes.
And we had to go because it was $334.25 that I had to pay to get the car out, which was the taxes, and
Exactly.
I didn't have it. And I was like, oh God, where am I going to go? So we went up there to see Don. And
Well, let me stop you there. So pause it for a second. Because what happened here, yeah, Jeffrey had told me, or you had told me, Tyrone didn't want the cars, but you can't get it. That's why. You can't pay the taxes on it. So I told Don, they got the car, but
God.
they can't get it. He said, why? I said, Tyrone can't pay the taxes on that. He said, hey, that's too bad.
I'm not working, I'm not doing
I ain't giving up nothing. I said, Don, for PR's sake, you got to do it, man. You got to give them the money, otherwise they're gonna blast on us at Soul Train. They can't even afford to pay the little dancers the money. Maybe Dick Clark might have gave it to you, but Don said, yeah, you're right. Tell Tyrone to call me. And that's when I told you to call Don.
So Jeffrey and I went up there with our tail in between our legs. We was like, oh God, how is this going to work? And I didn't know any of what Chuck just said, and I'm like, oh my God, how is this going to work? Oh Lord. And we sat there just like we're sitting there, and Don very calmly pulled over his desk, wrote the check, $330, and that was it.
Yeah.
It was done. Now, it was also a stick. I couldn't drive, Sharon couldn't drive a stick. But you know who learned real fast? The both of us. Oh God. And that was one of the, and then we would go on there periodically.
Yeah.
You know, not because of the show, but because of some of the friends that we had made, some of the friendships that we had made on the show. But my whole life was dedicated to and for Soul Train.
Well, he started to put his foot down on that about dancers going over there with the same thing I just tell you about. Chuck, are you recruiting dancers for Bandstand? I said, no, man, but hey, I'll straighten it out. You know, I know what they're doing over there because Don and
Dick.
The bandstand master.
Dick
Clark.
Yeah.
They were having a little feuds together because you talk like you said. Jesse Jackson had to break that up because now they wanted to cut in on the black audience.
Now that I look back, I can see now why they were really kind to me. Really, they were really like, when we walked in there, they would really like give us the best spots, and I'm like, and then I kind of figured it out, and then we kind of just stopped going. Yeah.
Well, boom. The fact of the matter is, I'm a street brother. I know what was going on. I know where all the best dancers were. The best dancers over there at Soul Train. And in order for Dick Clark to compete, he had to bring some of our people over there. And that's what Don went to Jesse and said, "Hey, man, this man's infringing on our stuff." And they squashed that. When he went over and talked to him, and they came back and they said, "Chuck, any more dancers go from Soul Train to Bandstand, wipe them out." That's why I don't think you're gonna have that problem anymore. Bone knows where his home is, and he'll be here. I don't even know if I had to talk to you and say anything like that.
The one thing that stands out in my mind about Soul Train is I danced on there from 1972 to 1980 without missing one taping, without missing one. Even when Don had us go on tour, he would always make it where we would always come back that weekend that we taped. Always. I never missed not one. It got to be like second nature. I mean, I'm so proud. I'm really honored to be a part of such a national event. My only concern is that these the kids or the people that they're not kids anymore, but the people that danced on the show, they don't get the real recognition that they do, that they truly deserve. I mean, you got a lot of people doing a lot of things just by being on the show and dancing from the show.
Right.
That's not even mentioned. They do. I think Demita told me that she did the first Soul Train. She choreographed the first Soul Train Music Awards, and she demanded that the dancers would dance in the. She demanded that the dancers would come and at least sit in the audience. And after that, they never asked us anything. I clearly remember when Don Cornelius died, Sharon called me and she told me that, and I was in a car and I had to kind of park the car and pull it over to the side. And I think I was in Philadelphia. And when I got back to New York, it was all over the radio. But what was on the radio was kind of heartbreaking because it was all of the artists. Like they did Smokey, they did Aretha, they did Shaka Khan, they did all of these people. Oops, sorry about that. They did all of these people. So I found out that, what's his name? I can't think of him. He has a preacher. What's his name?
Cleveland?
In New York. No. Jesus. You
said the right word. Jesus. Yeah.
Well, it wasn't Jesus. That's for sure.
How you know?
It might have been. It was National Action Network.
Yeah.
What's his name? That's the head of National Action Network. Sharpton. That's it. So I found out that Sharpton was having this event, and that was on 145th Street. I lived at 120. I lived at 112th, 110th down there. So what I did was I took my book. My book is filled with all of the photos that we did in Right On. So I took my book up there, and the guy at the front door thought I was crazy. Because I said, I want to come in. He said, it's closed, there's too many people in here. I said, but I'm one of the Soul Train dancers. And he looked at me like I was, so I had to show him the book. So he said, well, give me the book. So I guess he took the book up to Reverend Al Sharpton, and then he came back, and then he ushered me up on the stage. I think Roberta Flack was there, and CNN, NSBC, it was all the primetime television. So I'm just so grateful for him because he allowed me to speak. And what I said was, when I got on the mic, I said, my name is Tyrone Proctor. I'm an original Soul Train dancer. I'm here on behalf of all the other Soul Train dancers that danced through the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and the 2000s. And it's striking me that nobody is even coming to any one of us, and all of us are hurting because that's somebody that helped define who we are. And right at that point, the audience went up. The people that were in there, they went up. They start screaming to the top of their lungs. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be watching. All of this stuff. When I got off the stage, now before when I went on there, nobody wanted to say anything to me. But when I got off the stage, they all wanted to interview me. And again, the way I look at Soul Train as being a huge family. Even though we started it, we couldn't have finished it by ourselves, and it wasn't ourselves that finished it. It was the 80s, the 90s, and 2000s that did that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I give all praise to all of it. I travel all around the world, and I let people know that basically we are family, and family has disagreements and arguments, but when the stuff comes to the stuff, we're still family.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't put no one person ahead of anybody else. You know, Derek Fox is the same as Charles, and Charles is the same as Jeffrey. You know, everybody. You know, Reggie, all of us. You know, all of us, we're still the same. We're all the same because we all come from the same place. And for me, it's very important because it gives me pride to know that I'm standing with not just me, but with all of this talent.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got Mickey Howard, you know, Love Under New Management. You got Jody Watt. You got all of these people. And I came up with all of them. And I'll say this, and I'll tell them this is why Soul Train is still so important. Because the dances that we did, all the dances that we did, and I can name the groups, the Lockers, the Electric Boogaloos, Captain Crunch and the Funky Bunch, the Outrageous Wag Dancers, all of us, all of those dances, they're still popular to this day. Kids call what we used to call dance contests, they call battles now. And the battles generally consist of locking, popping, house, hip hop. They're still there. And this is 2018. So what does that tell you about this show and the people that danced on it? It's monumental. It's bigger than any one person. And and this is one other thing that I tell about Don. I was on 125th Street one time. I like saying this. I was on the 125th Street, and they have
near Riverside Drive.
No, I was near Lenox Avenue.
Oh, okay.
Over there by the Harlem State Building.
Yeah.
Frederick Douglass Building. Frederick Douglass Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
And you know they have the black people out there selling stuff. And one black guy had this portrait of all of these black historic people in the portrait.
Mm-hmm.
And I go up to him and I said, well, you got one person missing. And he says, well, who's that? I said, Don Cornelius.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, you're right. I said, Don Cornelius saved music. I mean, he took music that was audio and made it visual. He did that. And you don't honor him with the rest of these people?
Mm-hmm.
He says, you're right. These kids can't forget. They need to know. Just like they know Motown, they need to know Soul Train. That's the way I look at it.
Looking at it very good, Bone.
My love is to my family.
Now let's get into some of the underground stuff here now.
I got to try to be good with this. You got to go away.
No, you learned something.
I'm about to put it down. Where's Bobcat? There you go.
That's really your contemporary.